everyone, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new, welcome, I'm Stefy. Today's video is gonna be a flip through of my reading journal. I'm finally gonna show you the pages that I've created for 2024. So I'm gonna talk a little bit more about this Aliexpress, because in the Plan With Me video, I for sure was running out of time. Like, there was so much going on. I was creating so many spreads and I had no time to talk about them in details. I'm gonna be honest, however, I haven't changed a lot of things compared to my previously here. So if you've already seen the 2023 flip through of my yearly pages that I posted last January, so January 2023, or maybe it was already February, I don't remember, maybe you're gonna see a lot of things that are quite the same, but this is because if something works, I don't see the need to change it. However, there are some things that have changed. The first thing that you're gonna see as soon as you open my reading journal, which as you've seen is still the same notebook that I started in 2023, let's say the second half of the year, and this is because I still had so many pages left, and I thought that it would have been such a waste to start a new notebook and leaving all these empty pages. But in this notebook, probably with March, I'm gonna have to move to another one because there's not gonna be enough space. Anyway, the first thing is the cover page with the pocket and the color code, which is different from last year. I've decided to add more colors in the bookshelf and in the reading tracker. Instead of having them all from the same set, I've decided to change things a little bit. And I really need this page because I also write the exact name of the colors I'm using, so that I'm not getting confused by them all. The first thing that I've done was my bookshelf. I'm so happy with it, it turned out lovely. This here, I'm still using it to keep track of the books that I've read according to how many stars I gave them. And instead of adding a lot of things between books, this year I left no space for anything. There is still the window, but in this way there is more space for the books. Every single time I'm gonna be done with a book, I'm gonna color a book according to how many stars I gave to it, and then I'm gonna write the title of the book, and that's it. Then there's my book log, which again, there is a Dutch door because last year this was definitely enough space. And this year, my goal changed a little bit. I'm gonna talk about it in another spread, but I thought that this was still a good amount of space. Just like for last year, I'm gonna write the number of the book. The first one of the year is gonna be my book number 1. It's not gonna a number that's gonna keep on going from previous years. The title and the author, when I've started it, finished it, how many stars I gave, and then I'm gonna check whether it was an ebook or a physical book, and that's it. Then it's time for my reading tracker. Again, this year my goal is to read a little bit each single day. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do it. I hope so. Other than that, I don't have any other goal for my daily reads. It's not like I want to read at least this number of pages or for these many minutes or hours. It doesn't matter. The important is to read a little bit every single day. It's gonna be good whether it's gonna be a day in which I'm gonna be able to read only 40 minutes, or if it's gonna be a wonderful day and I'm gonna have hours to spend getting lost in a book. My goal is just to read a little bit. Then there is my 2024 books read. Here is where I print all the covers of the book, and underneath it I'm gonna put how many stars I give to the book. I should have enough space. I left the same amount as last year, and last year I didn't need extra space, so it's perfect. If you're wondering and you're new to my channel and you want to know how I print the book covers all in the same size, I have a tutorial online. It's a little bit old, but I'm showing you 2 ways to do it. Pick one. Just like for last year, I'm gonna choose my favorite book of the month and I'm gonna put it here. However, these 12 books will not be my favorite books of the year, because again, maybe in January I'm gonna have 2 or 3 books that got 5 stars, and only one is gonna end up here. And then maybe in February, my favorite book is gonna be a 4 stars. So you already understand that technically the other 2 from January that have been left out are better for me to my favorite February pick. Anyway, this is just because I wanted to explain why I call it pick 1 and not favorite books or anything like that. Then I'm gonna make them go one against the other, but this year I'm gonna do something different from last year. Instead of having January, February, March, April and so goes on, I'm gonna write them randomly. So I'm gonna start with January here, then February, then March, and whoever's gonna end up getting against whoever's gonna end up. Favorite books, this is where I put my 5 stars books. I think I'm gonna have more ton space because last year I've had the same amount of space and this page ended up being empty. But I've decided to still do it in the same way and not use only one page because I was like, who knows, maybe it is here, I'm gonna give more 5 stars, who knows. So I wanted to have extra space just in case. Then it's time for my monthly reads, and this is where I write all the books that I've read in each single month. It's gonna be really easy to use. Once I read a book in January, I'm just gonna write the title of the book, and then the same for the books after that, all of them. And the ones that I'm gonna read in February will go here. It's really easy, but in this way, with this spread, I can exactly see what I've read in each single month, and it's wonderful because in my previous spread, I can understand it, but I have like to look at the dates or things like that. This one, it's really wonderful. Then I have 2 new entries that weren't in my reading journal last year, and these are for reading groups. One, it's an online one, and the other one, it's instead a book club, and we meet once a month in person. I just want to keep track of the books that I've read with them. I'm also gonna add, for example, for both of them, the pick for January was the same book, which was a lovely thing. But I read the book last year at the end of the year. I'm just gonna add here the cover, but for example, in that case, there's not gonna be a spread in the month because of course there is in my privacy here. I just want to keep track of all the books I read with them. I thought this was a lovely idea. Then there is my series tracker. It works just like the one that I created last year. So here I'm gonna write the title of the series. And underneath it, I have space to do some circles. Each single circle is a book. So if the series has 5 books, there's gonna be 5 circles underneath it. And each single time I'm gonna finish a book, I'm gonna color the circle. It's quite easy. Bingo, just like for last year, I've created a bingo. I love having it. And just like for last year, I have the same rule, which is you can use one book only for one thing. So for example, if I'm gonna read a fantasy and it's gonna be, let's say, a book with less 300 pages, which is quite hard for fantasy, but okay, I can use it or to color a fantasy or a book with less than 300 pages. I can't use it to color 2 of them. In this way, it's a little bit harder, let's say. I always love to do this, and in the past 2 years, I've always managed to color it all. So I can't wait to see if this year is going to be the same. Then I have my Storygraph challenge. It's the one that usually is called Goodreads challenge. The reason why I decided to call it Storygraph challenge is because this year I want to use definitely more Storygraph. Last year I've been using both of them in a very random way. This year I want to use them a little bit more, but I love Storygraph so much more compared to Goodreads for different reasons. First of all, there are so many challenges, which I love. I really love that. Second thing, it's really easy to use as app. While on Goodreads, I'm gonna be honest, I never use it in the app. I go straight from the site. While Storygraph, I have the app because I just find it wonderful. It's easy to understand how it works, it's not complicated. You can just try it once and you'll understand why I'm saying this. Another important thing that Storygraph has, which Goodreads doesn't, is about the rating system. You can give to a book, for example, 3 stars, 3 stars dot 25, 3.5, 3.75, or 4 stars. This is why I love it, because if there is a book that for me is 3 stars and half, on Goodreads I have to choose whether to give it 3 stars or 4 stars, which is not the right thing, honestly. So I'm really happy about this. This is definitely a big important thing to keep in mind. Another reason why I love Storygraph is that if you're in a rush and you don't feel like writing a long review, which I don't do because usually I take my time and maybe I'll have the review a lot, let's say weeks after I finish the book. The lovely thing is that Storygraph gives you a chance to do a fast review where you simply click on add review and there are actually a few questions and you can choose the answers from the one that they give you. For example, they ask you how was this book and you have to choose between emotional, sad, happy, joyful, or whatever. They give you a lot of answers and you can select more than once. Then they ask you how's the book, if it was, for example, driven mainly by the plot or by the characters, if you enjoyed it. It's easier in this way, because if you're in a rush you can still do your little review without writing anything. And then at the end there is still the space, just in case you want to write a long review, you can do it. There is the space there and you can definitely do it. Absolutely love it. Another thing that Storygraph has, which Goodreads doesn't, it's on Goodreads, once you select a book, you can choose whether it's gonna go in your want to read, currently reading, or read. These are the 3 options. While on Storygraph, there's one more, which is did not finish it. It gives you the chance to select the DNF, which is extremely important according to me. It's another thing that if you DNF books a lot and easily, this definitely can be an important option to have, and Storygraph has it. This is why this year I've decided to call it Storygraph Challenge, because I definitely love it more compared to Goodreads. That's it. And it's also important to note that behind it, there aren't a lot of people that work. There are only, I don't know if 2 or 3 women working there. And it's another thing that I absolutely love. They really care, they really try to bring new stuff. If you're gonna suggest something, they're gonna listen to you. It's lovely. Just like for last year, I'm gonna keep track of the books I've read according to the month. So this is why I have the 12 months here with their colors. My goal this year is 50 books. I've decided to go for 50 books and not more, for one simple reason. I know that last year I managed to reach 60 and read 4 more, so 64 books. But this year I have a few books on my TBR which are definitely longer. And I already know that if I'm gonna read all the books that I'm planning to, they aren't short, okay? So it would be stupid for me to try to reach a goal that probably is out of this world. Because if a book is under 300 pages, then maybe I can read it in a few days, but if a book is over 500 pages, that's gonna take me definitely more days. This is why I've decided to bring it to 50. Then if I'm gonna reach it, good. If I will not, it's gonna be just as good as if I've done it. It doesn't matter. Then I've created 2 pockets for my holder challenges. So far I have, again I'm gonna give a try to the buzzword challenge, the A to Z with both title and the author, and another one for genre challenge. I've decided to do it in this way because it's definitely easier. If I want to add anything, I can just take a paper and do it. I don't have to leave extra space just in case or anything else like that. And this here, maybe this one is gonna work, I don't know, we're gonna see. For this one, since it was only taking this part of the page and not also the other side, on the other side I'm just gonna have the covers, just like I done last year, but last year I haven't finished it, I didn't even went any close to. So this is where I can add any more challenges. I'm free to add more of them whenever I want to. Then it's time for my genre tracker. This year it's different from last year because last year at the end of the day I was like, okay, I read this, for example, I had non-fiction, I had 2 books, but if I would have looked at it, I was like, okay, but when I've read them? Like all in a month, or one at the beginning of the year and another one by the end. This year, I'm gonna keep track of them according to the month. For example, if in January I'm gonna read 7 books, 3 of them are fantasy, here I'm gonna read 3. If there's gonna be a classic, one is gonna go here, and so goes on. And I'm just gonna keep track in this way. This is a new entry, it's my TBR page, where I keep track of my physical TBR, and this is because things changed a little bit. In the previous years, I was literally doing this. I was buying books, but until I wasn't done with them, I wasn't buying anything new. And it always worked? Yes. So why changing it? Because in the past year, I started thinking, when there are sales and there are discounts, I should use them. Like if there is this book that I really want to buy because I really want to read it and I would love to have the physical copy, if there is a discount going on and I can pay the 20% less of the price, it's better if I do it now. So it doesn't matter if I still have books in my TBR, but instead of buying it later and spending more money, I can do it now. This is one of the reasons why I have decided to change things a little bit, but at the same time, I want to keep my TBR under control because I know that elsewhere it's gonna end up in a mess. It's gonna end up with me having a big problem. My TBR started I would say that for some people it's not that big, but for me it is, because as I said, I was always making sure not to have too many books there. It started with January. I had, at the beginning of the year, 11 books. If you were looking at them, there were actually 10, but one book was made with the first and second books, so there are actually 2 books in one, and in these cases I count them as 2. Because, for example, I'm gonna make to make you understand, in Italy, Throne of Glass came out again in another edition, and there are only 2 books. Yes, all the series is filled into books. So I think it would be wrong, for example, if somebody asked them to read, to count them as only 2 books, because it's not 2. It's more than, it's like more than the double, definitely more, because there are 8 books there. So what? Like, you get it. This is why I count in that cases as the number exactly of books that there are inside. So here I'm gonna write, for example, the beginning of the year was 11. Here I'm gonna write 11, how many, because this is the number of my TBR at the beginning of the year, of the month, sorry. Here I'm gonna write how many I've added, so many of both, how many I've read, and then I'm gonna count what's left. So basically, this one and the TBR of the next month at the beginning of the month had to be the same number. Usually, and I even created an Instagram template for this, for stories. There isn't this one, there is just how many books you've read, how many you've both so added, how many you've discarded, and how many you're left with. I didn't add here the discarded because I never do that. I read the books that I have. Then if I'm not happy with one or more of them, I can decide to give them away or to try to resell them, anything. But I never do it with a book that I've never read. This is why it was pointless to add it in my bullet journal, in my reading journal. But I've decided to put it in the template for Instagram just because maybe somebody wants to use it and they actually do it. This is why. And here I have space at the end of the year to see how many books there's gonna be my TBR on the 31st of December. So just to have an idea. I already know that the month in which things are gonna go really crazy is gonna be probably May and June. May because there is an important thing in Italy, pretty close to where I live, in Turin, and usually they have a huge discounts like buy 3 books but pay 2, or 3 books and you're gonna just pay this amount of money. And I already know this year I should be able to go, that I'm gonna end up buying a lot of books. And usually in June, that's when you're gonna start seeing the 20% off on a lot of books. So I already know these 2 are gonna be really hard to deal with. Then it's time for the last page, which is my reading stats. It's the same one as last year, and this is because I loved it. So every single month, I'm gonna keep track of how many books I've read, how many of them were books, how many were physical books, how many pages I've read, for how many days I've read in the month. So here, I should get at the end and have as final number 366, because this year February has 29 days. Then how many books in English, how many in Italian, and here there is space for the stars. So how many books got 1 star, 1.5, 2, and so goes on. So I really loved it last year. It worked amazingly, so I've decided to keep the same one. Basically, this is all that I've created this year in my reading journal. I hope that this video was a little bit more helpful than the plan with me. In case you want to check it out, you can find it in my channel because it's there. But sadly, since there was so much going on and I didn't have so much time in that video to talk about each single spread, I thought it was lovely to do this video. As always, thank you so much for your support. If you've enjoyed this video, remember to give it a thumb up and subscribe for more videos like this one. Let me know with a comment if there are any spreads that you actually use, or if there is something that you would love to start using, like if I managed to give you some new ideas. As always, thank you so much for your support. See you next time. Bye!